Hey y'all, it's Bart. Welcome to another episode of Soccer for Us. On this episode, we are talking about two kind of sluggish performances from the U.S. men's national team in their September 2023 window friendlies. Two games that, if you looked at the scoreline, would probably indicate, hey, that was great. But when you look a little deeper, really you didn't have to look deeper. You just had to watch the game. They were a little slow, a little sluggish, and a little disappointing, to say the least, especially coming off of the Nations League victory that we saw with this A team. To talk about these two matches and what we should take from them, if anything, is my friend and the superior soccer dad that he is, Caleb, aka at USMNT Corner. Caleb, you have carved out time in your busy schedule from coaching, parenting, teaching. I think you also just are by default carpool. So thanks for being here for for this.
Anytime we get to talk about the U.S. men's, it's always a pleasure. Yeah, it is a season of trials and tribulations for me. It's just I feel like I'm going, no breaks, but got to take the breaks when you can get them. And when you enjoy watching the U.S., it's not as much of a chore, right? It's something we enjoy. It is a break, and except when the team looks like trash.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say that neither of these performances were the electrifying performances we saw from those two Nations League finals performances, right? My particular thought, though, is that I don't think we're going to get that for a couple of reasons. One, we're not playing Mexico and Canada, our two biggest rivals, for a trophy. I mean, let's just call it like it is. We're playing Oman and Uzbekistan, two teams that the fans clearly weren't excited to see. So, why would the players be particularly amped up to play them? But, I think that is also a question of why weren't we operating at least a 9 out of 10? Because it just felt like the guys kind of individually and as a team were operating like at a 7.
Yeah, I think there's a lot that goes into that, right? I think you've got guys that are probably worn out because they're working really hard. Got a lot of guys that moved, right? Um, a lot of guys that are trying to continue to prove their worth at their clubs if they didn't move. Then they're coming in, uh, like you mentioned, not a lot of fans, right? I think not a big game and then still charging unbelievable amounts of money. It's probably not a recipe for having a ton of people.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's probably got to factor into it, right? Um, and then you got to think were there players that just mailed it in because they were over or underestimating the opposition? Were there players that just kind of maybe weren't happy with the way they were playing and kind of like a silent protest type, right? Like if I'm not super happy with my coach, maybe I'm not going to try as hard. I don't know. It just seemed kind of off. Don't know exactly why, but yeah, it was. I think you'd have to be blind or just not watch the game to think that something wasn't going on.
Yeah. And it was. I mean, look, that was my biggest takeaway is it just didn't look like the team was playing at top speed. But at the same time, I felt like, it was good that we scored a couple of early goals in each game, right? We got an early goal first, 15, 16 minutes in each game. That's a plus. I don't know if that's like something we can necessarily replicate going forward, but if that's a trend we're going to keep seeing, that's good. And I know they're friendlies and it came after a bunch of subs, but the fact that we did score 3-4 goals after the 70th minute, that's a plus two in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, and we'll talk more in depth about this as we move on, but part of how we were scoring goals has me concerned because we all know how Greg is, right? And a lot of our attacking um, situations and scenarios and like they all came from you know pulling everything to the left side, Weston pulling back, hitting that cross to the overlapping fullback, come back to the 18, shot on goal. Like there was that pattern over and over and over again. And the thing is, we're playing Uzbekistan and Oman, right? We've talked about that. They didn't have the adjustments. There wasn't anything They weren't stopping that, and no one even stepped to Wes. Like, he's going to hit that switch. No one's
Yeah,
closing him down.
yeah,
Better teams, like, we're not going to get away with that in the Copa America. That's not happening, and it has me a little concerned because you know how fixated he can become when we're going to be possession based, right? And then he just sits there and drills it and drills it and drills it. If this is the only idea we have, I'm concerned. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, it came off. It created a lot, but we're playing Oman and Uzbekistan.
right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and that's what we've gotten into. I think what you're alluding to, especially, is when this team does really well against weaker opposition, or not even really well, but like things work against CONCACAF level opponents,
Mhm.
not even like in World Cup qualifying. He sees that as, oh, well, this is something we can replicate. And the reality is that's not replicable because better teams won't give you that time and space. And that's a fair argument. Those are things that, we have to either make that a quicker
Mhm.
sequence of play, right? That needs to be a boom, boom, boom type of a play. Or it's a, hey, this is nice if you have that opportunity to do it, but we also need to learn to combine a little bit more between our midfielders and our forwards,
Exactly.
especially with our forward high on the line as opposed to being 20 feet or 20 yards from even the top of the 18, which,
Well, and that's my concern. Like, if it's something that you've got in your back pocket, like, to have that pattern, that's fantastic. It's a great
yeah,
pattern to work on. But if that's the only thing that we're
yeah,
gonna do, because I mean, we saw it. I mean, my God, Westing, it was incredible. But it's also pretty easy to be incredible when you have unbelievable amounts of time and space on the ball, right? Like, we all know that. Um, Will Trapp can hit those passes too. He's not even on the same
right, right.
stratosphere as Weston McKennie, but they gave Weston all the time, and he did that over and over and over and over again. So if they were just say like, hey, let's just work on this, and we're going to drill it, we're going to do it over and over and over again, just to work on it, that's fine. But if that is like, hey, this is how we're going to attack every single time, like, come on, if people are sitting here picking up on it in the fandom universe, you don't think opposing coaches aren't picking up on it? Like, they're
Right.
not going to allow that to happen. So again, like I said, just knowing Greg, that's my concern. If it becomes some sort of fixation of his, and we don't see any
Yeah.
other um, versatility or any other patterns or anything else that we're trying to work on, because it's not going to come off, and it's not going to be a good situation when we start playing better quality opponents.
Which we will see next month. And I think I do want to kind of talk about that real quick before I get into more of your thoughts. But there was this narrative going around on Twitter that somehow we should have just played England and Japan, and that should have just been something we just pulled out of our butts. But I mean, I don't have any reason to doubt actual reporters saying that we had games lined up with Brazil and Argentina. This is also corroborated by reporting that Mexico was going to play Argentina here in the States. Unfortunately, that did not happen for reasons outside of the U.S.'s control. That's something that CONMEBOL decided, hey, we're going to start World Cup qualifying a little early. And, by that time, the unfortunate reality is Japan was booked. you know, People acting like we could have just gone to England and played. Well, they had the Scotland thing figured out for about a year because it's a commemorative, like, memorial match. So I don't know. I just wanted to address that real quick because it's just like we're trying to make up enough. Like, there's enough reasons to actually be mad at U.S. soccer, specifically when it comes to scheduling games. But like, this
Yes.
is not one of those to like be really.
Yeah, let's not make things up just to create more turmoil. And like, exactly, you said it perfectly. There's already enough. We don't need anything else. And people, they also, I think there's just a lack of understanding and just an ignorance almost of what goes on to create and schedule these fixtures. Like, there are a lot of moving parts, and it's not just
Yeah.
like, oh, you know what, we really want to play England, so we're just going to schedule this.
Yeah, let's just call them up and say, hey, let's play.
Game.
Yeah. This isn't the group chat at like 8:30 on a Sunday morning. I like yell up, like, let's go.
yeah, exactly. I got the ball, guys. Y'all bring the nets. Right. Yeah, exactly.
And if you've ever been in a soccer group chat, by the way, you know how hard even that is to actually get to play. So imagine, flying people in from around the world.
An hour before everybody's supposed to play, everybody starts bailing.
Like, oh man, sorry, my ankle hurts today, or I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The kid threw up this afternoon, and I can't cut. Like those types of things.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, let's be mad at U.S. Soccer for actual reasons, not because someone on Twitter said that they heard a rumor about something that they heard a rumor about. But no, well, I don't know. I also I don't want to be super negative about this, and I think you have some good points about this window that like this wasn't overall negative. Like there are positives you can pull from this.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and we'll talk about it. One of my biggest things is the fact that I saw improvement from the first game to the second.
Absolutely.
That's not something we're used to seeing under the Berhalter tenure. Like there were adjustments and improvements. What? We didn't do the exact same thing?
Yeah.
You kidding me? So yeah, I mean, like I said, we'll get into it, but it's not all doom and gloom.
And it's not. Let's though jump into the Uzbekistan game. The U.S. wins 3-0. We get a goal from Tim Weah in like the 4th minute, and then we spend the rest of the game going back and forth with Uzbekistan. A lot of I'm just going to say this: a lot of the Uzbekistan chances were because we decided to give the ball up. They weren't really doing anything to us. We just gave it to them like a lot of times. And then we got a couple goals in stoppage time. One from Ricardo Pepi and one from Christian Pulisic from the spot. But this game was a little bit of a struggle. Why do you think it was so? I guess it was a struggle, but like I think just more than anything, we wanted it to be a little bit more exciting and dynamic. Why wasn't it that?
I think, like we talked about, multiple factors. One, I do feel like it was like stiff and slow and rigid and predictable, and everything we've come to know for Berhalter ball. It's like the guys are being put in a box, right? You're like, and here's your job, and you're allowed to do these things, but anything outside of it, and the guys feel uncomfortable. It wasn't loose, which people were like, well, Berhalter and BJ Callahan, it's not been any different. Yeah, it's been different. Absolutely. Under Callahan, it seemed to be much more free flowing. There was much more freedom in attack. I joked after the 4th minute goal, I think it was USMNT only posted, like, what do you think Greg's cooking up here? And he's looking at a screen. And I was joking, like, that Greg was saying, we scored too fast. The defense wasn't pulled out. Let's hold on to the ball more. Let's possess, right? Like, obviously being facetious, but that's kind of what we've come to know and expect under Berhalter. And I think that's exactly what we saw. And I think that's why so many people were frustrated, because it's his first game back, on the sidelines. And there was no improvement. Nothing. Like, did you learn anything from your time off watching what the guys are capable of? And it's just, I don't know. It was a tough pill to swallow, thinking, here we go again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, buckle up, because here's another 4 years or whatever, like 3 years of the same old.
Yeah.
And wasting the talent and the opportunity that we have in front of us with the easily the most talented roster and group we've ever had, period.
And I think those are fair frustrations, because it was plotting. You could see how players had to think it seemed like they were thinking too much, or thinking too little about what needed to happen, because they were too focused on like, okay, receive the pass in this spot, Now, granted, some of those were because, you need to be in good spots to receive the ball. Some of it was, I think a lot of times the player is just not really being dynamic their own selves. And again, that kind of goes back to my earlier point that it did seem like the players weren't playing at 100%.
Mhm.
There were a couple times in this game that like Wes and Eunice kind of got the ball and they were just standing still. And it's like, is that a Berhalter thing, or is that them just being
Right.
like, oh yeah, I got to play soccer? But also, as I say, there are two teams playing soccer on the field. We're not the only one out there. Uzbekistan was very committed to not giving up a whole lot of chances or a whole lot of goals. If you look at their record, and I'm not trying to say they were playing great teams because they were not, but up until this game, through the last year and a half, they'd only conceded 5 goals, and that was the tail end of World Cup qualifying plus friendlies last year and friendlies this year. So this is a team that just doesn't give up a whole lot of goals, let alone chances. So I think that definitely plays a factor as you're playing a team that bunkers. And we know that Greg's style doesn't do well against teams that bunker. And if you want to compare that to BJ or Anthony Hudson, well, the last thing that Mexico does is bunker. They don't bunker. They're also just trash. But, yeah, we scored 3 goals against Mexico because Mexico is not a very good defensive team. And the Anthony Hudson stuff, it's like, well, it's not like our Nations League opponents are that defensively stout either. So, yes, we looked better in those situations, but I think the style of team, the team that we were playing against Uzbekistan was just a slightly more defensively rugged opponent than we have seen in the past,
And just overall, I think overall they were better, right? I think fans, we underestimated them. And I would venture to say the players probably had there was probably a hint of underestimation there, which is easy to do. They were a lot better than I thought they were going to be.
Yeah.
They were defensively, and then they had some attacking moments, like you said. Most of those were gifts from us, and I think people want to blame Berhalter when, we are not fans, obviously, of Berhalter, but I think you and I both are.
Look,
More
Tanner Tessman
level-headed.
coming into the game especially was like,
Yes.
that was just not helping.
And I feel bad for the kid. I think he's a lot better than what we saw. I think there were just a ton of nerves there. It was not a good opportunity, or he didn't take a hold of his opportunity the way he probably hoped he would have. But again, people are going to blame those opportunities on Berhalter, and that's not.
Yeah, I
that's
didn't
not the
see
case.
us giving up a whole lot of opportunity. Like we gave up shots. They had actually Uzbekistan outshot us, which just feels weird.
Right.
But like the quality of their shots weren't great for the most part. Outside of the couple of chances that we gave them 3 or 4 actual chances, right? That
Yes.
Turner had to come up with good saves on.
Thank
But
God
those
for Matt
were,
Turner.
yeah, I mean, seriously. But those were because of individual mistakes. I mean, and everyone talks about
Exactly.
the one that they had in the first half that went off the crossbar. And it's like, you know what? One, as of a defensive setup, giving a shot from 25 yards out is like from the half of the penalty box, the left half. That's not like a terrible chance to give up. You're fine with conceding a shot from that distance for the most part.
That's gonna happen. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, 100%. That's individual. That wasn't a breakdown.
No, we didn't have many actual defensive breakdowns. That's kind of my point. Is like I think it was a sloppy game from a lot of guys. I don't think structurally we were bad defensively.
Yeah.
And we saw that Uzbekistan can score goals. Remind us of what happened in their next friendly after they played us.
Say that again.
Remind us what happened in that friendly after they played us. They played Mexico against in Atlanta. What happened in that game?
Oh, yeah. I've been down on Mexico, never more than seeing that result. I think that was just maybe they're struggling. No, they are not good at all.
No,
and it's awesome. It's so great to see.
Yeah. But let's okay. So what specifically do you think we could have done better in this game?
Well, I think intensity, mentality, right off the bat, like you've talked about it. I think that would have helped a lot of things, right? And then, hindsight's 2020. You look at the way we played against Oman, right? Attacking Uzbekistan in a similar way. bringing a 10 on the field with like, Malik Tillman. It's a different look.
Yeah.
And you said, like, we struggle against teams that are going to sit low. They're going to bunker. They're going to get guys behind the ball. Like, they're professional soccer players, regardless of the quality. Like, it is difficult to break down a team when they do that, period.
Yeah.
Like,
5 guys behind the ball and another block of like 3 or 4 in the midfield is tough.
right. It's tough, especially if you're not a team that's going to whip in crosses and win the ball in the air. Like, we don't have a 6'5" striker.
Yeah. We
Like,
don't have Harry Kane in the box. We don't have Robert
Right.
Lewandowski in the box. I mean, we just don't have that.
Right. Exactly. It's different. So you've got to find different ways. And it's difficult, regardless of whether you like Berhalter or not. Like, that's just tough to do.
Yeah.
So, if we played Uzbekistan, like, the US women, right? You play and then 4 days later you play again, the same team. I feel like it would probably be 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
Quick. Because you've had a dress rehearsal almost.
Yeah.
Right. That's why I do think it was better against Oman, even though it's a different opponent. But yeah, I mean, that's people. I think people are trying to take too much from these games as well. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm struggling is like there are individual things from players that I thought could have been. And we talked about Tanner Tessman. He was not very good, right? Christian Pulisic was not very good in this game.
No,
Tim Ream
that's
wasn't very
weird.
good in this game, and yeah, Pulisic performing poorly was that.
Which I think also it leads to the point, like, people are always talking about club form. Pulisic's playing fantastic for AC
Yeah.
It doesn't always translate.
Yeah.
From either way, right? Coming from country to club to country, like, it doesn't always translate. That's one that really shocked me, to be honest with you, because
I think
wasn't
he needs
good at all.
to. I think he needs to use Jedi a little bit more. Do you agree?
Mhm. Yeah, or honestly, just start trusting his teammates more. And honestly, maybe because he is playing so well, maybe he came in and he was trying too much. All these different things, right?
Yeah.
Like, I know what that's like. I know what it's like to get on a field and I don't necessarily trust the people around me and I'm trying too much. Guess what? It doesn't matter if I'm the best player on my team. I'm going to play like trash because I'm giving the
Right.
ball away every opportunity I have. And that's what, like, he was like a turnover machine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is so unlike him. So I think a lot of things play into that. Mentality, coming in super confident was probably a bad thing. Overconfidence and then underestimating the opponent, I think, was probably a recipe for that.
Yeah. I will say I liked the midfield at the beginning because if we don't have a Tyler Adams, personally, and if you don't have Tyler and you don't have Gio, right? Like, so two opposite ends of the spectrum, but like I still think the McKennie, Musa, Adams midfield is probably your like default. Like, this is probably the one we want to start with, and then we'll tweak if we need. And Gio fits into that. It just is a matter of what type of how do we want to play and what opponent do we have. But if you don't have Gio to be because we saw that in the Nations League, right? It was like, oh yeah, no duh, we'll put Musa back, we'll put Gio in, we got that fixed. But you don't have Gio. The Luka, like, at the 6 wasn't terrible. I think if he had more time to play that position, he's a smart enough and quality enough player to figure that out. But like, it wasn't like they were burning us in transition. So that type of midfield, to me, I thought it was a great idea to test it against a team that's going to bunker, because for the most part, you're going to have a lot of the ball, a whole lot of passing. And Luka's a guy who we saw on multiple occasions can take a ball from deep, drive forward, and either find a pass or just get the ball out of his feet and set something up. So I liked it. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, I really like Luca Del Torre, just as an individual player. But I think it speaks to the strength of our midfield. I think that's probably our strongest area, because we do have so many different options, and everybody gets hung up on, well, if Adams is healthy, you got to bench one. I mean, here's the thing. The likelihood of all 4 of them being healthy at the same time. I mean,
Gio being healthy at any given point in his life is like, sorry, Gio, I love you, but like,
I hope it's just one of those, like, Pulisic. Remember, he was hurt all the time. You kind of grow out of it. I think we'll see
is at that age
him
for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I think it'll be fine. But you're right. I mean, it's all the time. Tyler Adams hurt. Wes McKinney, like, but our depth, especially with Malik Tillman coming in, Luca De La Torre, if you just got to rotate that triangle in the middle, right?
Yeah.
All these guys can do it, and they can do the job. Like, I wouldn't even have a problem with Adams and Musa sitting at the base of the triangle with McKinney playing more of a 10 role.
Yeah, I think
Like,
that would be something I would like to see is how do you invert that triangle
right.
with the players that we have?
And that's the thing. Like I said, it's a great problem to have with all this talent, but that's the strength. And you see, like, back in the day when one of them was hurt, like the whole team, like we were screwed,
Right.
right? Because what do you do? And we're starting to get to the situation where it's like when one's hurt, it's like, oh man, I hate it for Tyler Adams, but we're okay.
Yeah.
We're okay because, to your point, yeah, is he like, am I trying to figure out how to get him into the starting rotation? No. But if I need to play him, like, I have no issues. I'm not worried in the slightest because he can bring the ball up and down. He's very comfortable. He passes better than I think people give him credit for. I think his vision is better.
Mm-hmm.
And defensively, like you said, he's quality enough to where it's not one of those, like, are we panicking here? What are we how do we fix this? How do we hide? Like, we're not having to hide players.
Right.
Like, everybody can step in.
Right.
So I 100% agree with you. Like, Luka, yeah.
And again, I think this is kind of one of those things where if all you learned from this game was that we can get away with Luka at the 6 or having a Luka, Musa, McKinney midfield in some combo, to me that's a positive, right? Unfortunately, we didn't get as much time of it as we wanted because Luka goes out with, I think they haven't. Did they release it? I don't think I've seen an actual release, but clearly a broken nose. Poor guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe remember, was it Rip Hamilton in the NBA made the face mask super famous? Remember that back in the day?
Yeah, maybe he can do that.
Luka's going to take that and go back to club wearing that, and he's going to be just on fire.
I think Musa had a broken nose I know Zadeja's had a broken nose recently, so it happens.
Yeah.
But hey, look, Tessman came in, and it was just very clear he didn't fit with this team. He wasn't ready. I think part of that has to do with literally he wasn't ready to get into the game. He had to get off the bench, put his shirt on, and go. And as the guys over at Total Soccer Show, especially Taylor Rockwell, he calls it a quicksand game, where it's like things didn't start well. He never could quite get it back, and it just kind of, the quicksand got a hold of him. And you do hate to see that because I think he's a good enough player to help the team in general. But this just wasn't his day, and we've still struggled to find a quote true backup to Tyler Adams, and that's the negative.
You hate to see. Yeah, exactly. Because I was pulling for him. I think he is talented enough, but yeah, things didn't go well, and it snowballs. That's what I always tell my
snowballs,
my kids. Like, if you make a mistake, the mistake happened. You can't fix it. And if you start to play hero ball to try to make up for the mistake that you just made, all you're going to do is make another mistake, and then it begins to snowball. And I think that's what we saw. But I also say that this is where the Cardoso injury before the camp or during camp, really hurts, because I would have really, really liked to see him play, because clearly the kid is talented. But like we've talked about on this podcast 100 times, we've yet to see it in a U.S. kid.
Yeah.
And I mean, this was a perfect opportunity.
Yeah. It really could have been, because the level of opponent wasn't very high. I mean, they were better than I think what we thought, but like the opponent wasn't going to cause him many problems. So this could have been something that he could have gotten into. But unfortunately, a missed opportunity for Tessman. But like I said, I think at the start of this game, and I really do think you could see once Luka went out, the game did start to swing up a little bit in Uzbekistan's favor. And unfortunately, that's what happens when you have to play a guy who just, quite frankly, wasn't ready. But we got 3 goals. Yes, we get the one in the first half. Just a cannon of a shot from Tim Weah. We get one in the second half of Pepe, doing striker things and putting home a finish that, I don't want to say you expect him to, but it's like, oh, I like that he finished it the way he did. And then we get a penalty kick goal from Pulisic. So look, 3 goals, you move on. Was it great? No, but something that I heard the radio guys on Monday talking about after the Atlanta Falcons, it was like, were there things that you need to fix? Yes, but you'd rather fix them in a winning environment than in a losing environment. And you get a win, you move on, and things you can fix. And as you said, I think in the Oman game, things got better. 4-0 win. We get goals by Flo Balogun, gets his second for the U.S., which is nice. Then you see goals from – you get a goal from Pepe. I'm giving Paredes the goal. I don't know about you. I know it's an own goal. I'm giving him that goal. He created that goal. And then Aronson gets the goal on that free kick that was a stunner. I forget what U.S. Soccer they got roasted for this, but it was like, yo, they're gonna hype it up. Like, stop.
Oh.
Like, the goal of they're gonna be hype about it, right? But,
I mean, you can even see. Look at Brendan's reaction.
He was just like, oh,
like he knows he didn't even hit that well, and he's just like, he was like, well, it went in.
It did go in.
And then as far as the own goal, I wish that just give Paredes an assist and give Pepe an assist, because the thing is, like, the goal does not happen without the cross,
right,
and it doesn't happen without the run,
right.
So,
and those are the types of crosses that I would like to see more of. You get what I'm saying? Like when Berhalter says we need to cross more, it's not lump it in the box. It's get the ball wide, try to find a guy running into the box, play it to his, along the ground to his feet, or crossing it to a scoreable player, not just lump it in and head it home.
Man City goals. Let's get that ball down to the end line and bring it back up to the 6, to the 18, to, and we saw that over and over again. So that's a good thing. Tillman, I thought, did a great job of vision and patience in the box. Found Pepe where Pepe was very disappointed not to, put it on frame. He missed it wide, but the run from Tillman and then the cut back to Pepe was fantastic. And then the vision for Tillman to see the run, and I'm blanking on who played him through. But like those types of opportunities and those sequences are very encouraging as a fan.
Well, and let's just, a little bit from the starting lineup changes. We dropped Tim Ream for Miles Robinson. So I do think that allowed us to be a little bit more on the front foot, because Miles just is a quicker player, right? Chris Richards was dictating a lot more of the passing tempo, which he did very well, I thought. Christopher Lund starts at left back. We'll talk about him in a little bit. But then that midfield was the big change, right? Because you went from McKennie, Musa, Luka to Musa at the base of that, I guess the base of the midfield, and McKennie, and it was a 3M midfield, right? McKennie, Malik, Musa. That's just what I'm going with now. And it did look a little bit more dynamic. I think it's also to be said that Oman is a less defensively stout team, but I thought we did a better job of pressing the advantages when we got them. Specifically, you're talking about that one into Pepe where, and I think Ballo had another one. There was another one that was offside. Maybe it was the Pepe one where it was exactly what you want, and you're just a hair offside. If you can do that more, once or twice a game, you're going to get one might be offside, the other one might be onside. And I just feel like outside of just the big switches from Wes, which was clearly a tactic in this game, we did a better job of trying to find opportunities to press our advantage.
Agreed. And I think we were also pushing, right? Like if we are on the front foot and they are going to have, like you see it often, right? Where a team's sitting back being more defensive and the attacking team is being very strategic with when they're attacking and they're looking for perfect, like I felt better about the fact that it was more of just like, you're going to sit back. We are going to come at you. We're going to attack, attack, attack from all, like, we're going to hit switches. We're going to hit, cutbacks to the top. We're going to hit crosses in the air. Like, it was more free, more
Yeah,
freedom,
yeah. Look, Oman
less
gave us more freedom. I think that's fair to
structured.
say.
Yeah.
But yeah, it did feel like there were the instructions were more, hey, when you can do this, not if A then B and if C then do D, but if
Yes.
F and G happen, then don't do that. Skip to L.
Scripted.
Yeah,
That's a
it
great,
definitely felt
yeah,
less scripted for sure. Um,
100%.
and that's something that we are concerned about with Berhalter is things getting too scripted because that was how things felt in his first cycle, where things got to the
Yes.
point where it was always scripted. It was always this needs to do this. And I think if anything, that's just what we enjoyed in the substitute teacher era, where for obvious reasons, the tactics were not as rigid. And I do hope that Berhalter does take some time to actually think about his coaching style and understand that you can give concepts and you can give things to look for, but
Hmm.
scripted plays and mandated attacking phases
Right.
aren't what we need at this level. It's more, hey, this is the general idea we need to do. So when he's talking about crosses, you know, he's not talking get it wide and whip it in. I don't think that's what he wants. That doesn't make sense with that how he sees the game. But unfortunately, our scripts get us to, because they're so predictable, it turns into just a cross ball as opposed to a nice little crossed pass to someone's
Hmm.
feet or someone's head. Is they get a little lofted, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what you said, because they are scripted, it becomes so predictable. And when you're playing lesser opponents, you can get away with it. And that's what I mean, you go back and look at his tenure, you know, yeah, he's got a winning record, but we're playing a ton of scrubs for the most part.
Yeah.
Um, when do we struggle to create? When we're playing better teams, because they're not allowing that to
Mm-hmm.
happen, right? And yeah, we are, defensively sound, which is great, but you can't win if you don't score. And it's got to be less
Yeah.
predictable. It has
We
to be
do
less
have that
scripted.
issue when it comes to better teams that we're not scoring as much.
Right.
Um,
Right.
outside of the Netherlands game, which again was like very individual moment breakdowns that like
Hmm.
they just capitalized it better than any other team did.
Right.
We don't give up a whole lot of goals, right?
Right.
Even in the most goals we gave up in a single game in World Cup qualifying was two. That was at Canada because we were pressing for a second goal.
Right.
I do think defensive stoutness and the fact that we don't give up a lot of goals based, we have some good center backs that are pretty good at
Mhm.
stopping that. We have most of the time, if we have Tyler Adams, he's fantastic at sniffing out fires before they really get started. And then we have, for the most part, a goalkeeper who's a great shot stopper. That gets you in games, especially in tournament play. But where did we struggle in the World Cup, right? We didn't score enough. We should have beat Wales even without the penalty. You know, the Iran match should have been finished by halftime.
Mhm. Mhm.
Had we had a little bit more scoring threat, England could have possibly been a win. So those are the things that absolutely we need to figure out how do we get better at. And a lot of that has to do with Greg kind of putting a lot of boundaries on how
Mhm.
we need to play.
Well, and I think it's going to be a good test when we do have the friendlies, next month against better opponents than Copa America. Like,
Yeah.
he has to have learned. Like, there's no way he hasn't. What's wrong,
He is very
right?
stubborn.
What we just talked about, what you just broke down, that's 100% a problem. So how do we fix it? Well, you can't keep doing the same crap you've been doing, right? That's the definition of insanity.
Right.
To continue to do the same thing, expecting different results, that's not going to happen. And I think, and I hope he saw firsthand by making the change and playing with more of a 10 and having and giving a little bit more freedom, what we saw in the
Mm-hmm.
game against Oman, that maybe that's part of it. we've got some really talented guys.
Yeah.
I really, honestly, I loved what I saw from Malik Tillman, and I don't even think he played his best game. I'm really high on that kid. He just makes things happen. He unlocks things. I think that role is Gio's. I think everybody would
But
agree with that.
if Tillman is the backup to Gio at that
Exactly.
position, like I don't want to say backup, but like
We're in a good position there.
if we're looking for this type of midfielder, Gio's the guy that we're going to put. But if Gio's not available, if Malik can do that, Malik, whatever he does now, that's good to have. Same as like
exactly.
We kind of tested that in the Gold Cup, and it was I like Georgi Mihailovic, but it's very clear he's not there. Same as like Busio is not a McKinney or a Adams replacement. That's just not what he's not at that level. But it does seem like Tillman can be at the level of, if we don't have this and we need to play this way, we can put him there and things will be okay.
Exactly. Which I think is a great thing coming from this window, because I feel like, but just me personally, I've kind of felt like he's been there, but I think he just really solidified himself in that spot as far as overall looking at the roster.
What did you think of the new recruit, Christopher Lund?
I liked him. I think I saw some, what I would consider probably an overreaction on the Twitter timelines, the X timelines. That's the first time I've ever called it the X.
I don't know what it is.
But people talking about like he's already 100 times better than Anthony Robinson. I mean, I would say let's pump the brakes there, like big time. Is Anthony Robinson incredible with the ball? No, and he never has been, and no one's claimed for that to be the case.
Yeah.
What you're going to get from Anthony Robinson is a guy who's going to run for 90 to 120 minutes if necessary and never slow down. He's going to do exactly what you need him to do, and he is very good defensively. That is a great role and a great player to have at that left back spot. Also, what we saw from Lund was against Oman people. Again, it is extremely, extremely easy to look good when you have time and space.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I mean, look, Oman.
I'm happy.
The fact that he did not look bad and he looked at a lot of moments good is like, that's great. I'm happy for that. But I'm with you. Like, let's not pretend like he's worked his way in the starting lineup. But the reality is, and we talked about this both in the depth chart episode and then kind of with the Berhalter episode of, we really talked about it in the depth chart episode, where the backup left back is still a question, because right now it's still Sergio Dest. Yeah. And I do feel strongly you do have an actual left back as your backup left back. Now, granted, Sergio Dest is probably going to be there, but like, still, who can be that guy who is your actual left back? And Lund put in a decent performance,
Certainly earned himself more time.
Sure. Yes, absolutely. I think that is fair, because no one else has really looked that good. I still think DeJuan Jones, I like to see him in that position at a higher level. We did see him in this match at right back, which I thought he was, for the few minutes he played, I was like, oh, you made some good passes there. And then we also saw Kevin Paredes at right wing, which was not the place I thought we would saw him. But, it's like, okay, well, we saw these guys. So it's good to get them in low stakes situations, especially for Paredes, who's a younger guy. He gets on the field, high up the field, so mistakes aren't really going to be that costly. He can get in the game, feel comfortable. Hopefully we see more of him in the future, but it's also, we have to remember that he's still, a U20 player as well, and I think we as fans have this habit of, because Pulisic and Adams and all and McKinney and all these guys, Musa and Gio are still doing it. They are at this level. It's so young. We think every player has to be elevated so fast. And it's like, no. We don't have to. Like, Jedi's perfectly fine as our left back.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
can we elevate that? Yes, I would like to. But, like, we don't have to force Paredes. It's not like Paredes has to be our starting left back tomorrow,
And I think to your point, even if Pulisic and Adams and Gio and like, if we didn't have a lost generation, then they wouldn't have had all that pressure and all those
They wouldn't
caps
have
and
had
all
him
that
and
time.
immediately had to be the
Right.
superstar. It's
We
like,
didn't have a choice at the time.
yes,
And now we don't necessarily need an 18, 19, 20-year-old kid to come in and be a savior of a specific position. Like
correct,
we're not there anymore. And that's a
correct,
great thing.
right,
That's a great thing.
yeah,
The fact that we will have actual U23 teams and U20 teams, and they're not our senior teams as well, like, and we're still kind of in that realm, right? You
yeah.
hear Musa talking about, I want to be in the Olympics. Like,
And you
Pulisic,
forget, oh yeah, he's 20. Like
yeah, yeah, exactly. So we're kind of stepping out of that, but that's where we've come from, and it was a necessity. So yeah, like just let him be who he is. Let him continue to play, earn more time, but we don't need someone to come in and be the savior of the left back position right now. We're just not there, and that's okay.
right,
We're good.
right. But regardless, I thought Lund was fine, and I thought Paredes. It
Agreed.
was just nice to see him on there. Same with Kromashki, where I was like, okay, Benjamin Kromashki
Mhm.
was fine. He didn't look
Yeah.
out of place. That's my takeaway.
Yes.
Those are good things.
Yeah. 100%. I think what you said right there. He didn't look out of place. That's what you look for.
Yeah,
Like you're coming in, the game is in hand. You're playing a team that's not the strongest opposition. If they look incredible, you can't really take much from it. If they look really bad and like you said, out of place, then you can probably learn something.
right.
But he was fine. He stepped in and nothing really changed. Like everything was good. And he did a fine job. So
So let's move to this discourse that's happening right now. I'm going to start by saying Pepe scores in both of these games. He scored in, I think, now 6 of his last 6 appearances for the U.S. That's fantastic. First off, that alone is a positive. You have
yes.
Ballo get his goal. He scored a couple times now for the U.S. He obviously has 4 caps, so it's not like he has a chance to really, get that much underneath his feet. But he scored regularly, I would say, for the U.S. now, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But here's now the discourse. Apparently, you see the clip of Flo and Greg getting into it a little bit. I don't even say getting into it, having an exchange of Ballo was not happy that he was leaving the game. Greg was explaining some things to him, and he didn't seem super interested. And then you get this tweet from, someone who thinks he knows people that, oh, well, there's a player going home unhappy with Greg's tactics. What are you reading about the situation? It's assumed as Falarin Balogun, for the record. What do you read of this, or do you think this is like a big whole nothing, or is this something?
I mean, my thing is, if he's going home unhappy, okay. Like, he's ours. It's not like he's going to leave, okay? And if he's unhappy, like, how often have players been unhappy with their managers? It happens all the time.
In this very specific instance where they're mad, especially if they're mad they're not going to play, and yeah, that happens all the time.
All the time. So, look, Twitter's all about engagement. I get it. I'll throw things out there for that every now and then just to do it, especially if you're bored, right? But to sit there and try to make this some massive, again, like we said earlier in the episode, there are already so many things to be upset with the United States Soccer Federation. There's already so many things to be upset with Berhalter. Like, we don't need to create things to be upset about.
We really
We're
don't.
good. Is he upset? Maybe. And okay, everything's going to be fine. And he's going to be an incredible player for us for a long time. Like, that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think we've bemoaned the fact that Greg forces his strikers to play a little farther away from goal than we would like. I think that's very fair. That's still a critique I have of Greg. I still think that he needs to figure out a way to make that where our strikers can be most of the time the first guy in the box.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not abnormal, and I don't think in this camp that Greg left it with any sort of criticism for Ballo. And I think, if anything, he hinted to the fact that and I mean this sincerely, he may have scouted, I'm sure he scouted him for the longest time and thought of how he would fit into the system. But you don't know until that player gets on the field and you actually see in person how he interacts with other players, right? Or interacts within the system. And Greg alluded multiple times after both games, basically, that they're working to find the best way that he fits. And that's not a negative, like, oh, we got to work with him. It's like, you get a new toy, you got to figure out what the best way to play with it. And you're not going to get that necessarily in 2 games. But also, if Ballo was not that mad, like, let's stop this. He was not like throwing hissy fits. He didn't like abscond a handshake or anything. Like, he just wasn't happy. He wasn't going to keep playing, and was probably a little unhappy that he didn't. I mean, we don't even know what the conversation was about, right? Greg could have been like, "Hey, good job, really like that." He's like, "No, I should have had 3 goals." And Greg's like, "Listen, man, like I get it, but like, we don't know what that conversation even was about, and we're making stuff up about it."
Well, but that's what we do, right? That's the, you're not being a good Twitterer or if you don't do that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
To me, like, it might create a whole lot of good, him being upset about things and change some stuff. Like, I could just see him talking about, like, look, I'm making a run behind. Why not play that ball down to me down the line? Pulisic cuts inside with a return pass. Like,
right.
They have the ability to interchange. It could bring out some other patterns. You know how Greg loves his patterns. Maybe it creates more patterns. Maybe it's a good thing. All I know is people want to make it seem like Balogun, like, oh, he's unhappy. Okay, so what's going to happen? He's going to say he's done playing for us? Nope.
Right.
Like,
he's ours. Like,
what's the end
officially
game here? He's upset. Okay.
What, more starting time? He started both games. Like, I'm with you. Like, what's the end game here? Also, by the way, Pepe, like I said, has scored 6 goals in 6 matches. Like, so.
And that's another thing. If he's upset, you're like, dude, what do you want me to do? This kid is all he's doing is scoring goals. You go over and tell him that he can't play. You want to do that? No.
Right.
So if it's 45 and 45 and they both score, if Ballo starts the first 45 and scores, and Pepe comes in the second 45 and he scores, I couldn't care less if any one of them plays 90 for the rest of their career. Like, that's an incredible problem to have. So I think it's just something that's been blown out of proportion. It is what it is. Like, okay, we're good. They're going to be fine. Everything's okay as long as Greg stops putting all our players in tiny confined boxes.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this needs to be a learning curve for everyone, like a learning lesson for everyone. Everyone needs to understand that, especially for Greg, he needs to learn that he can adapt and change a little bit on, minutely. He's allowed to do that. Ballo needs to understand that, like, we are playing a system. And the unfortunate reality is with Greg is we have an established way of playing, but we also have like an established team who has been playing this way. And despite, what we want to really say, has been fairly successful at doing so. So, you've got to understand what you're coming into as well. But at the end of the day, like, this is probably nothing. Like, I don't want to speculate too much because, again, we don't know what that conversation's about.
Exactly.
Let's talk about good and bad from the window, though. Who hurt themselves this window? Who do you think?
Hurt themselves? I think, everybody would probably agree. Tessman did himself no favors. I hate it for him. I don't think it's because he can't play. I think it's just nerves. The moment got to him. It happens. I hope he gets other opportunities.
Same.
Weirdly, Cardoso probably hurt himself by no fault of his own, but the fact that there was opportunity there and he wasn't there to take it. Now, I don't mean he hurts himself forever, but that's a negative hit. And then I don't know if anybody really looked bad, out of place. Again, like we talked about, when you're playing lesser opponents, looking good is one thing. If you're looking really bad, then we can pull from it. I don't know if I would say anybody other than the Tessman debacle. I don't know if anybody looked out of place bad.
And that's kind of where I'm at. Is we're nitpicking. I'm nitpicking with these two specifically, but I didn't think Tim Ream looked that good, specifically because I thought Miles looked better. And I'm not even trying to pick on
Mm,
Tim Ream or prop up Miles
mm,
Robinson, because
right.
I still think Tim Ream is a very good center back. Do not get me wrong, but we do, by the end of this year, need to find someone not named Tim Ream to be our
Yes.
starting center back, right? I think Chris Richards has established himself as
Yes.
CB1. We
Yes.
have 3 to 4 other guys who can be his partner, because Chris is that good and can play on either side. But I don't think that after this year we can have it be Tim Ream and feel super comfortable. He got beat for pace.
Well,
He got beat from tempo,
yeah.
like those types of things.
I think there are a couple things there. One, and I think Berhalter said it. They asked him about Tim Ream and his age or whatever, and he was saying, like, look, if in 2026, if Tim Ream is still starting in the Premier League, like, he's going to be in the World Cup squad. And, like, it's hard to argue against that. But because of the way that we play, especially if we're trying to
Well, that would
push our
require Fulham to
blocks,
stay in the Premier League for 3 more seasons. So let's,
shots fired.
I kid.
Dang.
Full
Out
America.
of nowhere, just Fulham catching strays on the podcast over here. Dang. No, I think with the way that we play, we want more athletic center backs, and I think you said it. Chris Richards, he established himself. He looked super good. Hardly put a foot wrong. He just looked super comfortable, left and right. Looks good in possession. Made some great defensive plays, all while not playing a ton. Right.
Right.
That's a big thing for me. Which also, before we move forward, I want to just point out, if we can just really rewind a little bit. I want to give a shout out to Ethan Horvath real quick.
Sure.
If we're talking about Chris Richards coming in and playing as well as he did, without even having a ton of club minutes, I want to give a big shout out to Ethan Horvath, because he played really well, but obviously didn't have a ton to do defensively. In possession,
Yeah.
and in distribution, dude was dropping dimes.
Yeah. Which you have to, if you're not going to get a whole lot of shots against you, which we did it in this game, you got to show out in that way. And he did.
Yeah, and he did. And I was super happy, which just really, you want to talk about someone doing themselves some favors, right? Like,
Mr. Not with the club anymore. Unfortunately, it looks like he's been dropped.
There's no question he's the second keeper. Matt Turner, obviously number one. There's no questions. There's no doubts. Ethan Horvath for me is number 2 by far. If you can come in from not even playing and have a performance like that, like, there you go. But back to what you were saying, Chris Richards is the one. And then, like I said, because of the way we play, I think you're right. We got to find someone who is not Tim Ream. And for me right now, it's Miles. It's Miles and Chris. I think that's probably the most defensive sound, most athletic combination of center backs that we could possibly have.
Agreed. But, I think we saw that in the second game without a lot of real tests, so we have to understand that. But we have seen Chris and Miles play very well together. Yeah, we've seen them play well together. Exactly. So I'm glad they got the full 90. I think they played a full 90. Nah, not a quite full 90. I think
Mark McKenzie came out, which Mark McKenzie looked pretty good.
Yeah. Hey, look. That's my point about Tim Ream, right? Is just say, I'm not even trying to say he was bad. I'm just saying that you had 3 other center backs look pretty darn good. So
10 years younger.
Yeah. So if Tim is just falling down the depth chart because other guys are passing him, that's a positive. I hate it for Tim, but good. 2 other guys who helped themselves this winter, I thought. One, we talked about it, Ricardo Pepi. Like, The scoring goals is good,
Yes.
especially because he's rightfully not getting a lot of minutes at club. I hate to say that, but like De Jong is playing very well. They're scoring a lot. PSV is having success. Pepe knew he was going to be the backup going there, but at least he is going to be playing and training and in a good club situation, a stable club situation. I thought Pepe looked good. 2 goals in 2 games. And then I thought Lund, just because, I think, as you mentioned, let's call him back. Like it was just good enough to get a call back. That's the way I felt.
Yeah, I mean, completely agree on both of those. Ricardo Pepi, like, dude just scores goals. I mean, he puts himself in fantastic situations.
Mm-hmm.
He's good in the air. He's good with his feet. He's got way better ball control than people really give him credit for. And I thought he did a great job dropping in when he needed to. Um, if Josh Sargent can get healthy, I think that that battle is they're only going to make each other stronger. And I hope they become all like super, super close and they all just continue to raise their game because that's fantastic for the US. And then, Lund, we talked about him, looked good. Again, it's Oman. So, you know, at worst, he earned more minutes. At best, he looked good. But let's continue feeding him and giving him opportunities to show what he can do. And then, like I said, Ethan Horvath, the backup keeper it's an important position.
Your number 2 keeper is important for sure.
And what do you want in a number 2 keeper, right? They're not going to be starting. The number 1 keeper starts.
Yeah.
But if the number 1 keeper comes out, you want somebody who can just come in cold and have stellar performance. And Ethan Horvath, time after time, has shown that he can just step right in and take over.
Which
and I think
is good.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great thing. So I think he really helped himself, and I hope the club situation gets worked out.
Yeah,
He's too talented
there's
to stay.
a team here in MLS that you and I follow very closely that probably needs a new starting goalkeeper next year. That's all I'm saying. This is the not so subtle thing that a lot of the US fans that are also Atlanta United fans has either been Josh Cohen or Ethan Horvath. And it's just like, go get one of them, please.
I would love it.
I love you, Brad. And I jokingly tweeted out that he should be the overage player at the Olympics next year. Jokingly, I do not mean that. He shouldn't even be playing next year. All right, let's talk about the other big thing that's been going on Twitter this week around these games, and it's the fact that both of these games were not sellouts. 15,000 attended the game in St. Louis against Uzbekistan. We had, let me look at the attendance from the Oman match. I have it here somewhere. We had, I hate when your computer doesn't keep the page that you had it on because you weren't on it for long enough.
Yeah.
I hate that. 13,000 in St. Paul. Look, these aren't good numbers. I think that's the first thing I'll say. These are disappointing that even for, non-competitive friendlies, we should be close to sellouts. But these crowds weren't, I would want to say the people I think Berhalter said it best in his post-game presser again after the Oman match. He said the crowd that was there was great.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. You can't blame it on, well, soccer is just growing, soccer's here. Is it going to continue to grow? Absolutely. But soccer's here. You look at Apple Plus subscriptions for MLS package.
Yep.
Look at how many people in the United States are watching Premier League on the weekends. I mean, soccer is here as far as being able to fill up a stadium. But I will say, when you've got games in the middle of the week, and it's $100 per ticket, if I'm going to bring my family, that's $400
yeah,
to go watch USMNT versus Oman. and I can go home and watch it and have the
Yeah.
best seat in the house for free. Like that plays a massive role.
Yeah.
If they're $30 tickets, okay, we're talking,
Yeah.
right? $40 tickets, like whatever. But I think you can price out certain people for certain matches, and you know, also the same people get to have the opportunities to go watch the US. Like, when was the last time the US was in Atlanta? Can you help me out?
2015.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
For
had
the
the
Gold
women
Cup
in
versus
2016. We
Jamaica?
had the men in 2015 for the Gold Cup semifinals. So
Yeah.
yeah.
In the loss to
So
Jamaica when Brad Guzan got called for the
mm,
handball when he
yeah,
threw. I was there, but yeah.
and so that's a valid point. That like it's how do I say this nicely? The U.S. does play in spots around the country. I think that narrative that they only play in the Midwest is like a little overblown, right? There, we play in Florida a lot. We play in
Mhm.
California a lot, despite what people want to say. But to your point, like, why would I pay $100 for not even a slide at our own players, but like for Oman and Uzbekistan?
Right.
You know,
Yeah, and think about it. If the tickets are $100, like I said, that's $400 for me and my family.
and they're not all
Plus
100.
gas.
They start at about 50. That's where we're at. Like they started at about 50, which is
Okay. I
pushing it.
I
You
didn't
know,
even look. I just saw
no,
people.
it's they're obviously pricing scales, right? But like if the get in the door price is $50,
Sure.
you know that it
Okay, so
escalates if you get better seats. You know,
yeah, I mean, look, let's say I get four $50 tickets. That's $200 plus gas, plus parking,
oh,
plus
that's
food.
$50
I've
face
spent
value. That's not Ticketmaster charging you $87 in
yeah,
fees too. You know,
exactly. So we're
plus
talking
yeah,
half a grand to go watch a friendly versus Oman for a family of four,
mhm.
you know? And then if it's just me and my wife, then we gotta get a babysitter. Like, it's just
Yeah. No, the secret is you
I
just take you and the kid, and you leave the wife home for the end.
yeah, that would
See
go
how that goes well.
great. Well, and see, the thing is,
Don't
all
do
like
that. Anyone there out there listening, married, don't do
I met
that.
my wife playing soccer. Like, she's a soccer fan. My kids both play. Like, there's no one that's going to be left out of the situation but me, right? Like, this is a lose 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 lose. So I think that's a big thing, right? Like, there are probably people that are being outpriced. Period.
Yeah.
And again, if it's a World Cup qualifier, okay, let's talk about this, right? It's a
The
friendly.
World Cup qualifying prices, they started at about $100. And I know this because I went to
Right.
5 of them.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
got
yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of my money.
There you go.
I think the cheapest I paid was 80 something for a
Okay.
supporter section ticket, right?
Right. Right.
And I went to,
Yeah.
did I go to 5? No, I went to 4. 4. But still,
But you can justify because it's a local qualifier.
it's a World Cup
It's a big
qualifier. And I'm
it's a
I'm
big deal.
I'm I'm going by myself,
Yes.
and I'm
Yes.
sharing a hotel room with other people, or we
Right.
drove down to Orlando and stayed at my friend's parents' house. Like those, I
Right.
stayed for free in Nashville. Like even
Mhm.
in Austin, it was
Mhm.
like, well, we'll get a room, the cheapest hotel room. We'll put 3 guys in it, and we'll just figure it out. Like
Boom.
you can't do that necessarily, like you said with the kid. And yeah, I
Yeah.
but also I am not the target market for U.S. soccer to come to these games. As weird as
Mhm.
that sounds.
Yeah, you're already yeah, 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 like,
I'm hooked. I'm going. If I have the opportunity, if I can
supporters
make it work, I can work. I'm going.
yeah, if you're, like, 1 or 2 people going, supporters, like, AO member, like, those people are going. They're there. But, like, families, people that are casuals, like, "Oh, the US is here, like, we could" they're not paying that kind of price
Right.
to go watch a friendly versus Oman, like, it's not
Right.
happening, and they need to understand that.
Yeah.
Throw in some $20 tickets to fill the upper section,
Right.
and then push them down
Yeah.
later if you need to.
I have a whole lot more thoughts, so I'm just going to go through them real quick because I think you
Go for
alluded
it.
to it, where playing in the same place over and over again dilutes the excitement
Mhm.
of the team playing in your city. And again, they
100%.
have played in multiple places. They've played in LA twice this year, by the way. But everyone in California says they never play there. They played there 5 times since 2020. Um, They've already played in St. Louis this year, and a competitive match at that, right? So I already saw the U.S. They played a competitive match here. We're about to play in Austin. We play there for a Nations League game in November. That's going to be our 4th time in 3 years in Austin. We've played in Orlando 3 times since 2020. And this is the 3rd time in St. Paul since that stadium has been built. So we have enough soccer stadiums in this country to try different markets. The problem is, to your point, U.S. soccer is overpricing all these people. This product is not appealing to the locals at that price point, and they have to make that smart assessment and change the pricing structure. But it also doesn't help when the opponents suck. And on top of that, and Berhalter talked about this in his post-game press conference, and this is where I do think Berhalter has some sway in this, but like, as much as people want to hate him for it, I totally understand. They have preferred facilities. They have training grounds that are better. They have this and that, like, that meet their standards or exceed their standards. And unfortunately, some of the stadiums that are built may not have those same things that they are looking for. But I don't think that's a reason to not play there. But I get why they're trying to play in places that they're familiar with. Now, I don't know why they're playing in Richler Field, as much as that stadium has been a good host for the U.S. soccer. I don't understand why they're playing Germany in a 40,000 seat stadium. That should have been a bigger stadium for sure. But Oh well. You got to go soon. I got to get off here. So let's just end it there. U.S. gets 2 wins, 7-0 on aggregate. We head into October with a little bit of momentum. 2 much more important games in October, more fun games in October. Caleb, thanks for joining me. You can follow him on Twitter at USMNT Corner. Thanks everyone for listening. I'm Bart. I'm out.